Morning, and welcome back to the Secret Solve, the program where we look at the book The Secret and try to figure out where the puzzles lead. So, in today's episode, I'm going to start looking more at the front of the book, and I'm going to start by developing a solve idea around the Leif Erickson idea. Now, this could lead us to several different places, but if you start reading the front of the book and you look at this particular page of this guy right here, that guy right there is probably Leif Erickson or Eric the Red. It doesn't really matter which one of these two characters you think that this is, but you notice the detail on the guy's uh, chest. And then look at the other details in the particular thing. There's a boat in the beard, and there's a whale in the background, and all of these figures in the front of the book have additional information to the story. But let's just look at Leif Erickson for a minute. And so Leif Erickson, also known as Leif the Lucky, Norse explorer, thought to have been the first European to set foot on the continental Americas, approximately a half a millennium before Christopher Columbus. According to the sages of Icelanders, he established a Norse settlement at Vinland. And I think Vinland might be important if there truly is a bookend relationship between a New York puzzle and a puzzle in California, where you might use Vine Street because there's, vine. Maybe that's just a vine the serpent is showing you. There's also vines in that image where the rose is. So perhaps there is this link between the two puzzles. But Leif was born son of Eric the Red and his wife, and though his paternal line, the grandson of Thorvald Asbaldson. When Eric the Red was young, his father was banished from Norway for manslaughter, and the family went into exile in Iceland. So if you look at the history of this, he ends up going over and settling on Iceland and then later Greenland. And there's been some statues and parks made for the guy across the country in different places. If you look at the Norse history of Erikson, you go back to the year 982. In the year 982, Eric the Red explores and names Greenland after being outlawed for 3 years on account of manslaughter in Iceland. So if you take your task to the 982, which could be Eric the Red, which is featured in the 11th page of the book, and of which the story of the founding of Newfoundland is based upon, then you've got some place to start. Southern Greenland is settled by Eric the Red as he leads the first settlers from Iceland in 986. By the year 1000, Leif Erickson, son of Eric the Red, returns to Greenland from Norway, bringing along the first Christian missionary. Soon thereafter, the first Christian church on the North American continent, the HJODHILDUR Church, was built in Bratilda. Around 1000, Leif Erickson discovers the names lands in the present-day Canada, Markland, Vinland, Helleland, if you will. In 1124, Greenland becomes a diocese of its own. In 1261, the Greenlandic Parliament acknowledges the Norwegian king's supremacy and the right to claim taxes. Oh, there's a tax burden for you. But the thing about it is, come 1480, the Norse population of Greenland disappears. The vanishing. So in 1480, 1500, you have the Norse population of Greenland disappearing, aka the vanishing. So if you read the actual story in the front of the book, it's going to tell you the story of the exploration of America. And it then leads you into Columbus, and it leads you into um, uh, the Portuguese explorers, it leads you into Vasco da Gama of Portugal, Columbus of Spain, uh, it leads you to Bartholomew Diaz. And so it's basically sending you on a quest to find information or a exploration of all the early explorers of uh, the continent. So the question then becomes, well, where do you place all these people? And again, in the front of the book, if you look closely at the book itself, you've got these little blips of pieces of the back of the book, or the puzzle images. And so if it is written so that you can actually use the text of the book in order to get an idea of where each of these individuals fall, then perhaps when you get into reading this story, you need to look for those items in the back of the book to confirm what you're looking for in that area. So again, you just have to look through here and see the things that are in the back of these pictures on the images, and then match them to potential solve locations. For instance, there's a ladder on that boat there. Does that mean we have a solve next to a fire station where a ladder is needed of some sort? This tree is featured quite a bit in the back of the book, or in the front of the book, excuse me. And I'm wondering if this is important because Palancar seems to have a fascination with a tree that looks that way. And I found a tree that looks like that in front of the Erikson statue in Leif Erickson Park in Bensonhurst, or the Bath Beach area, somewhere around the Verrazano Bridge. And we'll get to that shortly, but I found the Erikson statue in a park. And if you start the book out talking about the Hudson River, you're probably going to have a solve location because you spend a lot of time in the front of the book talking about Newfoundland. You spend quite a bit of time in the front of the book talking about the founding and the different founders. And then you talk about the disappearance of Leif Erickson. And in this, then you start talking about the Hudson River. Now, when you realize that Joe Allen Trilling went to the New Paltz in Hudson Valley, then you kind of get the idea, well, maybe there's a puzzle that incorporates some of Joe Allen Trilling into the puzzle itself. In other words, I think each of these creators had a puzzle. And they were able, it's like Byron came into a production meeting and said, hey, staff, I'm going to give you an opportunity to put your own ideas into this book. And even if you would like to go put a puzzle, put one in the ground, then we'll do it together. And I think Palancar and him trotted on out to the Rockefeller area and just threw that one in the ground while Palancar sat in the car and watched, or maybe vice versa. Maybe he's the digger. But anyway, I just think that there was more involvement in some of these puzzles, and it wouldn't surprise me that could have been a possibility. So they talk about this a little bit, and so let's just kind of move on forward. So I put in this the hayridge.com photograph of the Leif Erickson Park relief, where you have this boat and this ship and the sail, and then there's this guy over here on skis, I think, or something weird. Anyway, and I don't know how long that's been in the Leif Erickson Park, but there's on the front of this photograph, there's a placard in the design of the pavement. If you look at the pavement, look at how the pavement kind of looks like a basketball belly. It's just an interesting paver stone that they used, and I don't know how long this paver stone's been in the park, but I can't read what's on that plaque in Leif Erickson Park, and there might be some confirming words in that. If you look at stylistically the area around Leif Erickson Park, and again, this is going to be spelled Leiv Eirikson. And where you have a V of Shore Road, in other words, one branch of the V, if you will. And so if you want to follow along at this point in the presentation, I'm looking at the Leif Erickson stone. And I'm looking at this off a Shore Road. Basically, we're between 5th Avenue and 4th Avenue. And we're on Shore Road. So Shore Road ends up starting at the top of this park. And the reason I'm starting to like the Leif Erickson Park a little bit is because it kind of is how the same park that we had in Cleveland. It's a long stretch of park broken up by various streets. And you have a lot of streets here. And so, like, for instance, if John Michaels and Kit Palancar knew that the location for one of the puzzles was this Shore Road area leading into Leif Erickson Park, in their puzzle, they could have put 2 circles 3 in there for a reason, because here you have 2nd Avenue, and you have 3rd Avenue, and you have Belt Parkway, and you have Shore Road. And I like the Belt Parkway because seems to be an emphasis on the belt around the image figure. And so looking at this long linear park called the Leif Erickson Park, you end up having a feature in it called the Leif Erickson Stone. But there's some other features in this area that could be related to the puzzle and some of the ideas. There's a thing called the Dust Bowl. So the Dust Bowl ends up being this feature of the park, and let's see where they mention that. There's the Quaker Parrot Park at the Dust Bowl. And so this is a feature of this particular area. We've already had one of the puzzles matched to the puzzle in Cleveland, where we have that. So the Quaker Bowl, a Quaker Parrot Park at the Dust Bowl. And so you get, there's 41 photos of this if you want to click through it and look at some of these to see if there's anything that strikes your fancy. I see several dogs. I see those benches that have a C and a P on them. And stylistically, I don't know if these benches match the bench that the gal was sitting on. And again, it'd be quite some time removed from when that photograph was taken. But, there's this feature of the park, and it's adjacent to the Leif Erickson. But then again, you also have some other interesting buildings in this area. One of them is the Greek Orthodox Church. And if you look at the outside building of the Greek Orthodox Church in this area, it does have the window structure that's in the image figure. And so it gives you some indication that, well, perhaps that was used in the image relief. And then the other thing that there is the high school. So the high school, and I don't know exactly what public service PS school that Byron went to, but I'm back to this church. This church's name is the Saint Nektarios. It's the evil necromancer. It's the Nectarios Greek Orthodox Church. And if you look at the front of that building, the glass entry above the entryway is a glass structure. But also, if you go to the High School of Telecommunication Arts and Technology, which this was the high school for the area, for this area back at the time. And so that building would be directly adjacent to where the statue is in the park. The next thing I'm going to point you to is the PS 102, the Bayview School. And on the top of the clock tower at the Bayview School is the appearance of a clock that appears to have the correct facing. In addition, the texture in the background seems to be familiar. And this is going to be between 71st and 72nd Street off of Ridge Boulevard. So we're not terribly far from the park at this point to find that particular. Uh, the thing about this area is there are so many churches. It's like this is an area lined with different types of churches. And so it's kind of difficult to point it down. The other thing is that the fact that there is a Senator Street helps me in that to Congress L is known. And I don't know how we put all that together, but at least there is some reference there. And this is also known as the Senator Street Historic District. Once again, Byron Preiss did predict the future because the high school eventually became known as the High School of Telecommunications, Arts, and Technology. And so when in the back of the book he put references to the telephone and the computer, he was predicting the future of that building. He's quite good at predicting the future of particular areas. I haven't looked and seen if there was any play with the John Allen Payne playground in this area, or whether or not this Owl's Head Park. But anything that's along Belt Parkway is of interest to me. So let's get on into the historical database marker map. I had the Dust Bowl. I talked about the Bay Ridge High School. Okay, once again, we have a prediction of the future by Byron Preiss. So in 1841, the Medical College of New York University, the precursor of NYU Langone Health, was founded. Among the college's 6 original faculty members were renowned surgeon Valentine Mott, and John Revere. John Revere was the youngest son of patriot Paul Revere. And many of you people don't think that the generational descendants have anything to do with the puzzle, yet you so vehemently want to use Paul Revere's ride in Boston as being important to the solve, yet discredit the idea that any other person by the name of John Revere would have anything to do with a solve in any other part of a puzzle. So there's just a little bit of history. But back to my Byron predicting the future. So if you go, there is now a NYU Langone a clinic, almost adjacent to this park. All right, that was. I always try to put something fun in here, right? What I try to do. It's called the NYU Langone Ambulatory Care at Bay Ridge. I always try to put something in here to keep people interested and entertained. Okay. Well, why am I interested in this? Why do I think it's a possible location? Well, mainly because in 1977, you could not get away from Saturday Night Fever. You couldn't get away from it. And people familiar with New York will probably even be more inclined to understand the movie, and since they were from the area. I'm going to talk about the filming locations, and I put a map on here so you can see the different filming locations of the movie Saturday Night Fever. But if you want to be convinced a little further, please go look at the video of Stephanie Mangano and how she looks in her robe in the final scene, and then look at the positioning of the hands, of her hands in the hand of Tony at the end of the movie. And look at how her robe looks. Okay, so it was filmed at 1301 West 7th Street, 221 79th Street, 5th Avenue, and 94th, 7305 Fifth Avenue, 802 64th. And I provided a link, and so I'm not going to read every single one of these to you. But I think the L is probably Lenny's Pizza. So Lenny's, I don't know, perhaps at 1301 West 7th Street. Now, if you look at where this is, and you look at the other locations of the filming of Saturday Night Fever, you've got Tony walking all over the place here. I mean, he's at 8th Avenue. He's over in Bay Ridge at 4 or 5 different locations over there. And they've renamed this one called the Gowanus Expressway. But anyway, you can see he was. So one of the filming locations is actually at the 8th Avenue location. And so, or excuse me, the 802 64th Street location. And this is actually right adjacent to the park. So I was going to focus on this one. And believe it or not, 802 64th Street in Brooklyn was the location of the Odyssey Disco. And this is where the Odyssey Disco scenes all took place in the movie. And I'm just saying that you need to, okay, just for context of the 1970s and 80s, anybody interested in solving the secret needs to watch the movie Saturday Night Fever. Not only for the New York aspects, but also the you just have to watch the movie because it takes you back in time to that period. Okay, we all know there's a famous scene at the Verrazano Bridge where one of the characters, oh, I'm not going to ruin the movie for you. But anyway, there's a famous scene at that particular location as well. I also think potentially I don't know if the back of the book, I don't know where that photo was taken of the one doll sitting on the bench, but there's a famous scene in the movie Saturday Night Fever where Tony and Stephanie are sitting on a bench in along the Hudson River, close to the Verrazano Bridge. And in fact, if you're following along with the latlaunch.net locations for Saturday Night Fever, then you'll understand exactly where that point is. But anyway, so if you don't know about Saturday Night Fever, I'm just going to give you a little bit about it. But so the plot basically is that Tony Manero is a 19-year-old Italian American from Bay Ridge. He lives with his parents, grandmother, and younger sister. He's got a dead-end job in a small paint store. Here you go, Sherwin Williams. To escape his day-to-day life, Tony goes to the 2001 Odyssey, a local discotheque, where he is the king of the dance floor and receives the admiration and respect he craves. Tony has 4 close Italian-American friends from the neighborhood: Joey, Double J, Gus, and Bobby C, where M and B are set in stone. Never mind. A fringe member of this group is Annette, a neighborhood girl who's infatuated with Tony, but Tony's really not attracted. Tony and his friends ritually stop on the Verrazano Narrows Bridge to clown around. The bridge has special significance for Tony as a symbol of escape to a better life. Tony agrees to be Annette's partner in an upcoming dance contest, but her happiness is short-lived when Tony is mesmerized by another woman at the club, Stephanie Mangano, whose dancing skills exceed Annette's. So Frank Jr., Tony's older brother and the pride of the family as a Roman Catholic priest, brings despair to their parents and grandmother when he tells them he has quit the priesthood. Tony shares a warm relationship with Frank Jr., but Tony feels pleased that he is no longer the black sheep of the family. Frank Jr. tells Tony that he never wanted to be a priest and only did it to make their parents happy. Also, he encouraged Tony to do something with his dancing. Uh, okay, so while on his way back from the grocery store, Gus is attacked by a gang and hospitalized. He tells Tony and his friends that his attackers were the Barracudas, a Puerto Rican gang. Meanwhile, Bobby C has been trying to get out of his relationship with his devout Catholic girlfriend, Pauline, who is pregnant, facing pressures from his family and others to make her. Bobby asks Frank Jr. if the Pope would grant him dispensation for an abortion. When Frank tells him such a thing would be highly unlikely, Bobby's feelings of desperation increase. Uh, so eventually, the group gets their revenge on the Barracudas and crash Bobby C's car into their hangout. Tony, Double J, and Joey get out of the car to fight, but Bobby C runs away when a gang member tries to attack him in the car. Well, this is a scene right out of Langone's eventual death in Boston. Seen right out of it, anyway. Later, Tony and Stephanie dance at the competition, share a kiss at the end of their performance, and end up winning the prize. However, Tony believes the Puerto Rican couple performed better and that the judge's decision was ethnically motivated. This is kind of right up the theme of The Secret. He gives the Puerto Rican couple his trophy and award money and leaves with Stephanie. Once inside Bobby's car, Stephanie mocks Tony and lets him and tells him she was using him. Tony tries to have sex with Stephanie, but she resists and runs from him. Okay, well, anyway, I'll let you, in order to not completely ruin the movie, I'll let you watch the movie to get to the rest of it. But so the star of this movie was John Travolta. And John Travolta was launched into the stratosphere after this movie. So was the Bee Gees and the soundtrack from the Bee Gees and Staying Alive, or Saturday Night Fever. All of this came from this movie. It's basically a cultural landmark in the world. So the Odyssey the Odyssey basically is an ancient Greek. It's one of two major ancient Greek epic poems attributed to Homer, and it's one of the oldest extant works of literature still widely read by modern audiences. As with the Iliad, the poem is divided into 24 books. It follows the Greek hero Odysseus, king of Ithaca. All right, I'm not going to give you that much more information about the Odyssey, but if part of the book is about the Greeks, then why not talk about it? Okay, so as a final thought, or maybe an opening thought on this solve idea for this area, I put a link into the Saturday Night Fever movie ending, the actual ending of the movie. And if you play this clip, you'll find Tony and Stephanie having a discussion. And I want you to watch this clip because of the white robe that Stephanie is wearing, specifically because of the white robe Stephanie is wearing. And then I want you to pay particular attention to how their hands clasp at some point in this clip. And I'm going to play it and watch along, and you won't hear the audio. But in the movie, they're both wearing white. She's wearing a white robe. He's wearing a white blazer. So I'm just going to fast forward to the hand holding part. So if you get to the 110 moment uh, in this clip, the 112 moment, you get the hand holding. And I don't know, every time I watch this scene, I just get the vibe that, this was taken out of the Saturday Night Fever movie. It just feels like that's where it came from. And I'm not going to put it past Byron to use, still images, scenes from movies. But all the white, all the white in this movie, the number of times both the characters appear in light, and the fact that if you you freeze this at the 125, uh, you will see the robe from a different angle, and you will also see how the sash on the robe is hanging from the front of this. And if you look at the background of the um, building in which this scene was filmed, it's eerily reminiscent to like the maitre demon and the type of brickwork that you have. And I think the brickwork in the back of these has something to do with it. Uh, but again, I'm just trying to. There is a guitar, by the way, in one of these images in the back of the book. And, uh, the staging of the scene. Uh, Elf sits. I mean, there's a chair in the scene. Like the chair is just sitting there. Anyway, all right. Has anybody joined in? Any thoughts on this crazy idea? Oh, don't have anybody watching today, so I guess I'll be on my own to talk further about this. But anyway, the Saturday Night Fever idea, I don't know. There are people that have looked for this in John Paul Park. There's people that's been looking in this area before, and so I think there are a good number of people that see this area as a a place to look for the puzzle. But I'm saying that if you combine the front of the book and the Leif Erickson, the fact that they talk extensively about Leif Erickson, they talk about the vanishing, which I think is actually just the vanishing of Eric the Red, and uh, tie that with popular culture of the time, and it could put you in this park, especially if somebody could find anything in the park next to that Leif Erickson Park uh, sign. And if you like the verse that has to do with the V or has to do with the birch trees, I think there's just a lot of opportunity here. Um, I mean, I put my guy on the ground near the Dust Bowl, and there used to be a volleyball court here. I think they've replaced it with pickleball courts. So, but if you like the birch verse that has all the birches in it, or if you like the verse with the V, uh, if you like the image match, if you like the school, I don't know where Byron Preiss went to school, but if he went to, I guarantee you, if Byron Preiss went to high school at this building, uh, I'm telling you that it's probably in this Leif Erickson Park. Uh, so probably someplace. So if you're going down Shore Road, you get to this V, and when you get to the V, you can't help but see the Leif Erickson. And the thing about it is, in the background of the Leif Erickson, you have the mast of a boat, and on top of that, you have a flag, and I think you have a POW MIA flag. And so you're coming down Shore Road, and you get to this V, and right in front of you is this prime meridian marker. Now, would it be possible that Byron put uh, markers in puzzles that weren't related? In other words, in the first image, he ends up putting or in the Florida image, he ends up putting a rock next to a palm tree. But in fact, you should be looking, if you kind of look at the shape of this rock, it's not quite the same shape. But anyway, you got the mast there for a boat. Um, so I don't know. I just, uh, I always like my idea of a solve is that you have something that's going to be in the park for a long time. And then you just have to figure where from that the actual item is. And so that's why I like this marker, uh, and trying to figure out if there's anything that correlates with that. I've actually been trying to find the image of that, but if you go to this marker and then you pan over, uh, you will actually see the uh, And perhaps they've moved this marker before as well. But I think if you look here, you'll see like the church, that Greek. So if you take the shore road on the right hand side here, and you go down the street just a little bit on Shore Road, you're going to run into that church I was talking about, the monastery, the Greek monastery with the glass windows. And then shortly after that, you're going to hit the high school building. And so there's a couple of markers that you could use here to potentially develop a better solve than the one I have. But that freaking is just that gown is so reminiscent, and I can't get her out of my mind. There, at 500, 67th Street, 518. There used to be a volleyball court here, and I think they replaced it with pickleball or something else. And if they asphalted over that, you're not going to get there. The two baseball diamonds are still kind of here in this park. Um, I don't know. It's a solve idea. It's a solve idea where you have two circles, three, some pop culture. I think I wrote about this one. If you like this area, you could also consider the Bath Beach Park, where they have planter boxes. And if 10 by 13 is your clue, there at the end of 10 by 13 is the clue. And you go look at the planter boxes that are in the Bath Beach Park, and that it's in the carrot. It's a carrot in that box. Then maybe I'm not quite right with the Leif Erickson, but so let's just explore that for a second. So if you like Fort Hamilton and you got the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, right? If you got those, then you have the Diker Beach Park. And if you look at this, you could say, well, maybe that's Diker Beach. There used to be an amusement park at Diker Beach. And if you consider if you consider the image figure looking for a bath, and you like Shore Parkway and Belt Parkway, and you like both of them, Shore Parkway and Belt Parkway basically become the same when you get to Bath Beach Park. And so if you look at the Bath Beach Park, and let's just say you go down and do a street view of that, and click your guy on Shore Parkway, you can look at this park that's been totally redone. In fact, they're redoing a lot of the streets in this area. Where these planter boxes used to be, it looks like they've now resurfaced that whole entire area and turned that into either bocce ball. Oh man, I wish I would have known they were doing this. I would have frickin' contacted the parks department and said, "Hey, could I, when you're when you're taking out those planter boxes, could you look carefully and see if there's in one of the planter boxes, one of those 10 by 13 planter boxes, could you look in there and see if there's any broken pottery?" So if this one was at 1219 Shore Parkway, they've also replaced these lamp fixtures. So some people think that that's an Ishihara test. And if you like the idea that was an Ishihara test, then it would, if you go to like 1219 Shore Parkway, it might interest you to know that in the back of the book where there's a picture of the lamppost with a car next to it, that was a famous photograph that was published about that occurred when a guy by the name of Son of Sam was active in the area. And this is where they actually, a woman walking her dog, hush dog, don't bark. A woman walking her dog noticed a guy prowling around the neighborhood. And this guy by the name of Valenti and his date walked across the overpass to get to the beach, and then came back to their car. Maybe they were going to do a little evil necromancy. Well, anyway, David Falco decided that he wasn't going to have any of that. He'd been busy, and so he ended up shooting both of them. And one of them, I believe, died, and the other one was blinded because he was shot in the eyes. So kind of like the image doesn't have any eyes, and there's an Ishihara test, and maybe a bullet at the bottom. And you're seeking Rumble and Hush. I don't know. That's my crazy solve for Bath Beach. But if it was in Bath Beach, you're never going to find this now, because it would have been in this planter area that I see current construction on from Google Earth. And so the basketball goals. Look at these basketball goals in Brooklyn. These basketball goals have that window pane appearance. You know, they're not just like one piece of glass. They have a window pane appearance. And some of these are still over in the area I originally talked about. If you go to the basketball courts over here at the Leif Erickson or the Dust Bowl, maybe it's the Dust Bowl. If you go look at these basketball goals, I think they still have that window pane background. So anyway, all right, folks, I think that's about all I have on Eric the Red, where Leif Erickson statue is in New York, the newfound land, the focus on the newfound land, the image match to the robe and who might be wearing that robe. There's other scenes in Saturday Night Fever where Tony is wearing a low-cut shirt. There's another scene in the movie where Stephanie is wearing a kind of an off-the-shoulder outfit, all white, by the way. So anyway, that's my Barry, Robin, and Maurice Bee Gees solve. All right, folks, thanks for joining in. Again, if you have any questions or comments or want to point out something I might have missed, feel free to put your comments in below.